Hey everyone, and welcome to another Deep Dives with us. This time, we're going to be looking at the Honda EV Fun concept. That was just revealed at EICMA 2024. We found a really cool article from a motorcycle enthusiast website. It has a ton of information about this new electric motorcycles. So are you ready to jump in and see what Honda's been working on?
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to see what they've come up with. One of the things that I'm really noticing right off the bat is how Honda's really showcasing the unique strengths of electric powertrains. With
Yeah.
this concept, it seems like they're not just trying to, just electrify an existing motorcycle. They're really reimagining the whole riding experience.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. The article we found actually emphasized how quiet this bike is supposed to be. They even call it a silent ride experience.
Mm.
Imagine just cruising through the city without that loud engine noise. Just you and the wind and the hum of the electric motor. Especially in busy cities, that could be really awesome.
For sure, it's more than just not having the noise, though. Like, there's this whole movement towards quieter cities, and electric vehicles are playing a big role in that. Like, have you noticed all the noise restrictions that cities are putting in place?
Yeah.
It's like we're completely rethinking what cities should sound like. And, this EV fun concept just fits perfectly into that.
I agree. It's like they're saying you could have a thrilling ride without adding to all that noise pollution. But speaking of thrills, it sounds like this bike is no slouch when it comes to performance either. The article talked about Honda's engineering and how they're using like an integrated battery chassis and some other features for dynamic handling. They've been making motorcycles for a long time, so they know what they're doing.
Yeah, their experience really shows in the details. Honda's reputation for engineering is really solid. And all these features are carefully chosen to improve how the bike rides. Take the integrated battery chassis as an example. By making the battery a part of the frame itself, they're doing some really cool things with weight distribution, which means better handling stability, being in control. It's not just about power, it's about how that power gets to the road.
That's so cool. They're basically turning the battery into this secret weapon for performance.
And while we're on the topic of power, this EV Fun has some pretty impressive specs for charging and range. They said it has quick charging with the CCS2 standard and an estimated range of over 100 kilometers.
Wow, that CCS2 standard is a big deal. It's really changing the game for electric vehicles. It's all about being able to charge your vehicle quickly at more and more places. Having that standards on the EV Fun means you can charge it at a lot of the same places that electric cars charge. That's super convenient, especially if you can't charge at home. Totally. It's like they're making charging an electric motorcycle just as easy as filling up a gas tank.
Hmm.
And I know 100 kilometers might not sound like a lot, but for getting around a city and running errands, it's actually plenty.
Yeah, you don't really need to go cross country on a single charge when you're just zipping around town.
Exactly. It seems like Honda is really targeting city riders with this concept.
It looks like they're trying to find a balance between the size and weight of the battery and how far you can ride it. And 100 kilometers sounds pretty good for a city.
And it's not just about the practical stuff either. The article made it sound like this EV fun is more of a lifestyle statement. It's not just transportation, it's about embracing a new way of thinking.
Yeah, for sure. We're seeing that with a lot of electric vehicles, especially motorcycles. They're often marketed as representing a certain kind of lifestyle. People who care about the environment, who want something different and unique. It's about being a part of a change toward a more sustainable future.
I like that a lot. So let's actually get into the nitty-gritty and talk about some of the key specifications from the article. We've got the electric motor, the battery type, the range, the design, all that fun stuff. What stands out to you the most?
Well, I think besides what we've already talked about, the thing that really grabs my attention is how Honda is really focusing on making this bike perform well in a city. They keep talking about how smooth the power delivery is and how much torque it has at lower speeds. It's clear they're designing it specifically for city riding. It's not about raw horsepower. It's about having the right kind of power for weaving through traffic and handling all the stop and go of city life.
So it's less about speed and more about that smooth, responsive ride through the city streets. That sounds amazing for anyone who wants a fun and practical way to get around town. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like Honda is taking what works in cities and applying it to their motorcycle design, focusing on efficiency and a smooth ride over just raw power. But let's look closer at some of those specs, starting with the electric motor. Now, the article didn't give us exact power numbers, but they did talk about how smooth and vibration-free the power delivery is with electric motors. And that's a really big difference compared to a gas-powered bike.
Yeah, a bit, especially in a city. You wouldn't want a jerky throttle response
Yeah,
when you're trying to weave through traffic.
exactly.
Okay, so the motor sounds pretty cool. What about the battery? We know it's compatible with that CCS2 fast charging standard,
Hmm.
but did they say anything about the battery tech itself?
Unfortunately, no, they didn't get into specifics. But knowing that they're focusing on fast charging and a compact design, it's probably safe to say they're using a high energy density battery, most likely lithium ion. That's what pretty much every electric vehicle uses these days.
Okay, but back up for a second. Can you explain what high energy density means?
Sure, so basically, energy density is about how much energy you can pack into a certain space. You can think of it like two suitcases that are the same size. But one can fit a week's worth of clothes, and the other can only fit a weekend's worth. The one that fits more has higher energy density. So for electric motorcycles, high energy density means they can make a powerful battery without making it huge and heavy. And that's super important for keeping the bike light and agile, especially for riding in the city.
So it's like a balancing act between power and weight.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So we talked about the battery. Next up is range. We know the EV Fun has over 100-kilometer range, which is good for city riding. But is there any way to figure out the battery capacity from that number?
Well, it's hard to say for sure because it depends on how efficient the motor is and how the bike is being ridden. But if we look at other electric motorcycles with similar ranges, it's likely that the EV Fun has a battery capacity somewhere between 5 and 8 kilowatt hours, which is plenty of juice for getting around town.
Awesome. So it's like a full tank of gas, but without the emissions.
Hmm.
All right, so moving on to the design. The article was really excited about this integrated battery chassis. We talked about how that affects the weight distribution. But can you explain a little more about why that's such a big deal?
Sure, so imagine this. Instead of just attaching the battery to the frame, they've made it a part of the frame itself, like it's the backbone of the bike. And that has a couple of big advantages. Like we said, it keeps the weight centered and low, which makes the bike more stable and easier to handle. It's like a tightrope walker using a long pole to balance. And it also lets them build a frame that's stronger and more compact. So the bike reacts really quickly to what the rider does. It's all about agility and precision.
Wow, so they're not just slapping a battery on there.
Nope.
They're making it a core part of how the bike is built. That's what I love about Honda's engineering.
Yeah, they always find these clever ways to make things work better.
Okay, so we covered the design. Let's talk about what it's like to actually ride this thing. The article kept mentioning how silent and smooth the ride is. But did they say anything else about how it feels to ride?
Yeah, they definitely seem to be going for a ride that's both comfortable and exciting. They used words like urban convenience and dynamic handling. So it sounds like you can cruise along smoothly,
Yeah.
but you also have that instant torque from the electric motor for when you need to accelerate quickly.
So it's the best of both worlds.
Exactly.
Okay, one more thing about the battery. How long does it actually take to charge?
They didn't give us exact numbers, but with that CCS2 fast charger, you could probably get a pretty good charge, like 80%, in less than an hour.
That's pretty fast.
Way faster than older charging methods.
Awesome. Okay, last question about the EV Fun's performance. The article mentioned smooth power delivery with responsive torque suited to city riding. So does that mean it's going to be super fast?
It doesn't sound like they're focused on top speed. It seems like they're more interested in smooth, controllable power, which is perfect for stop-and-go city traffic. That instant torque will definitely give you a quick start, but it's more about feeling connected to the road and having a ride that's fun and responsive.
I like that. It's like they're saying, forget about racing. Let's make the everyday commute more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've spent this deep dive really getting to know this EV Fun concept, from the specs and the tech to the whole lifestyle idea. But let's step back for a second. What do you think this concept tells us about the future of electric motorcycles? Are we going to see a ton more of these soon?
I think it's a pretty clear sign that electric motorcycles are here to stay,
Yeah.
especially for cities. Like Honda is a huge company, and they're putting a lot of effort into developing electric motorcycles.
Yeah, that makes sense. But it's not just about the bikes themselves, right? There's a lot of other stuff that needs to happen too. Like we need more places to charge them, and the batteries need to keep getting better. It feels like a whole new way of thinking about transportation.
You got it. And concepts like this EV Fun are a big part of making that happen. It's not just about showing off cool technology. It's about encouraging people to build the stuff that we need to make it all work. The more electric motorcycles we see on the road, the more demand there will be for charging stations. And that could lead to a lot more investment, which will make electric motorcycles even more practical for everyday people.
It's like a chain reaction.
Exactly.
One thing leads to another, and before you know it, electric motorcycles are everywhere. And you know what? There's something kind of cool about it, too. It feels like you're part of something new.
Definitely, there's that appeal of being on the cutting edge. It's about caring about the environment and wanting to do things differently. Electric motorcycles kind of combine all of that.
Totally. So as we wrap things up here, I have one final thought for you. How do you think these kinds of concept bikes will actually change how cities are built? Will we see more charging stations made just for motorcycles? Will cities start making special lanes or parking spots for them? I think it'll be really interesting to see how cities adapt.
Those are really good questions. And I think they're going to be really important in the coming years. It's such an exciting time to be watching all this happen because it's not just about technology. It's about design and culture and how we think about transportation. And who knows what amazing things will happen next.
Couldn't agree more. This deep dive into the Honda EV fun has been a blast. It's not just a cool motorcycle. It's a window into what the future might hold. Thanks for coming along for the ride.